Welcome to the 2016-17 school year. This is the Oshkosh West High School online activities code meeting presentation. My name is Brad Jadarski. I'm the Oshkosh West Activities Coordinator, and I will be narrating you through this online presentation. Please have your orange copy OASD Co-Curricular Handbook with you to follow along with as we go through the online presentation. If there are any questions that you have regarding anything found within the OASD Co-Curricular Handbook or anything covered in this online video, please stop in and see me at the main office, or you can email me at brad.jodarski@oshkosh.k12.wi.us. I'd like to start with that competing in activities is a privilege. It is not a right. Your academics come first. Therefore, if you are a student not doing the job in the classroom, you should not be surprised that your eligibility to compete in an activity with a performance or competition very well may be impacted. Therefore, do the job in the classroom first and foremost. On pages 2 and 3 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, you will see the different categories of activities we have. Category A includes forensics, academic team, madrigals, math team, musical, fall play, and spring play. Category B, DECA, FBLA, FFA, mock trial, skills USA, business challenge, and other business competitions. Category C, all student activities not mentioned that are listed on the high school's approved list. Category D, music classes with performing groups that are both curricular and co-curricular. Category E, robotics. And Category F, all honor societies, organizations, and student government. Note, being involved in a Oshkosh Area School District activity requires payment of an activity fee. For the 16-17 school year, the fee is $20 per activity, a $40 individual limit per school year, and a $60 family limit per school year. If you participate in the district's free or reduced meals program, your fee can be waived. Also, some of our activities may have additional fees, especially for those activities that have state and or national level qualifying events. I'm going to ask you to open up the handbook to pages 6 through 8. Starting on page 6, I want to go over our academic requirements. In order to participate in an activity that has competitions or performances, a student must have received no failing grades, including incompletes, in the most recent grade reporting period. The second grade reporting period of first semester, the second grade reporting period of second semester, and second semester grades are used for academic eligibility purposes. On page 7, note numbers 4A and 4B regarding a period of ineligibility if a student is academically ineligible. 4A, should a student become academically ineligible with one failing grade, he or she may not participate in competitions or performances for a minimum of 7 consecutive school days and nights while the activity is in session. The student may return to competition or performance on the 8th school day, provided the student received at least a 2.5 grade point average in the most recent grade reporting period. If the student had a grade point average of less than 2.5 in the most recent grade reporting period, he or she must come to the activities coordinator office to secure an activities academic eligibility form. The student must take the form to all of his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. To regain eligibility, the student must be passing in all classes. This procedure of taking the form to teachers must continue on a weekly basis throughout the season or until the student is no longer academically ineligible. On page 8, should a student become academically ineligible with more than one failing grade, he or she may not participate in competitions or performances for a minimum of 15 consecutive school days and nights while the activity is in session. The student may return to competition or performance on the 16th school day, provided the student is passing all of their classes. To regain eligibility, the student must, after 15 consecutive school days, come to the activity coordinator's office to secure an academic eligibility form. Student must take the form to his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. To regain eligibility, the student must be passing in all classes. This procedure of taking the form to teachers must continue on a weekly basis throughout the season or until the student is no longer academically ineligible. Note, a student can be eligible one week and ineligible the next, or vice versa. In the middle of the page 8, new students who received one failing grade and who had less than a 2.5 grade point average in the most recent grade reporting period, or students who received more than one failing grade for the most recent grade reporting period, will have a chance to regain academic eligibility at the 5 or 15-week grade reporting period. These students will have their grades checked at these grade reporting periods, and if the student has no failing grades, they will no longer be considered academically ineligible. 4B, for students participating in the musical, one-act, or fall play and spring play, if a student is academically ineligible, he or she must miss 1/4 of the scheduled performances. One failing grade at each grade check requires students after 3 consecutive school days to go to the activities coordinator office to secure an academic eligibility form. The form will list the student's current class load. The student must take the form to his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. A student can regain eligibility by passing all classes each week until the next grade reporting period. More than one failing grade at each grade check requires students after 5 consecutive school days to go to the activities coordinator's office to secure the academic eligibility form. The student must take the form to his or her teachers for completion and return it to the activities coordinator's office. A student can regain eligibility by passing all classes each week until the next grade reporting period. Again, the moral of the story is please do the job in the classroom first and foremost to stay academically eligible. On pages 9 and 10 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, there are a couple items I would like to mention. Number 5, regarding illness. A student must be present at all classes on the day of a practice or competition and performance to be eligible to participate. Only permission from school administration will permit a student to compete after missing classes. Students may not participate in any competition or performance or practice if they are out for any or all of the school day without permission from school administration. Note, students, if you are ill in the morning and you contact the school and speak with an administrator and let us know your situation, if you can get to school for the second half of the day, more than likely we will allow you to participate that day. However, you must contact the school in the morning. Please note, if you go home in the afternoon for the second half of the day, you will not be allowed to participate in any activity that evening. Regarding out-of-town travel, number 7, a student who travels to an out-of-town contest with the school team or activity must return with the team or activity. The only exception to this rule is if a student's parent is present at the out-of-town site, he or she may request that the student returns with the parent. This request must be made in person by the parent to the coach advisor in charge, and the parent will also have to sign off that they are taking their child or children. Each coach will carry a copy of the district transportation form with them for all away events. It is important to note, the coach or advisor has the option whether or not to grant permission. Regarding vacations, on page 10, number 11, at the discretion of each coach or advisor, when a student is absent due to being on vacation with his or her family, upon returning to the team or activity, the student will not be allowed to participate in competition or performances equal to 1/2 of the competition or performances the student missed. If the student is absent due to being on vacation with someone other than his or her family, the student will not be allowed to participate in whatever number of competition or performances were missed, 1 competition or performance for each competition or performance missed. Note, if a student misses only practices but not competitions due to being on vacation with either family or friends, this may impact your playing time, performing time for the student upon his or her return from vacation. Students and their parents are encouraged to speak with their coach or advisor as soon as possible if they will miss any part of the season. Note, if you are gone and not practicing like all the other students in your organization, group, or activity, it should be no surprise that when you return, you don't have the same spot you had when you were gone. On the bottom of page 10 regarding in-district transportation, number 15, the student or the district does not provide transportation for students to any practice sites and some home competition or performance sites. In these situations, it is responsibility of the student, parents, and/or legal guardians to provide their own transportation. On page 11, please familiarize yourself with the school district policy regarding use of cameras and other recording devices in locker rooms. Really, the nuts and bolts of this document is the Code of Conduct section found on pages 13 to 15 of the handbook. Note, the Code of Conduct must be observed year-round, meaning it is in force 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. A student must refrain from any conduct at any time that would reflect unfavorably on himself, herself, or the school. Conduct which would reflect unfavorably on a student or on the school includes, but is not limited to, the following, beginning with letter A on page 13, all the way through letter R on page 15. Please be sure to review all items and be familiar with them. Also, please note, on page 15, letters Q and R, Q regarding hosting a party, and R regarding supplying or bringing alcohol or drugs, have been updated. Note, for hosting a party, any person who has a gathering at his or home property or personal property, including car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., where alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia are permitted by such person to be used and or brought into the home, property, or personal property, may be given a penalty at a higher level. Administrative discretion will determine the length of the penalty. And for supplying, bringing alcohol or drugs, any person who brings, supplies alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia to another person or persons may be given a penalty at a higher level. Administrative discretion will determine the length of the penalty. In the event another individual engages in this behavior on behalf of the athlete, there will be a presumption that the other individual acted as an agent of the athlete, and the athlete will receive the same punishment as if the athlete had been the supplier. Note, if you ask an older brother, a neighbor, a sibling, etc., to do this for you, it would be just the same as you doing it yourself. Again, please familiarize yourself with all items A through R on pages 13 to 15 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, and those are areas that would be considered conduct that reflects unfavorably on a student or on the school, which in turn would and more than likely could result in a code of conduct violation. If you flip to pages 17 at this time, you'll notice the penalties for code of conduct violations. Also note, simultaneous category consequences. Students may participate in simultaneous activities, meaning two activities that happen at the same time. However, if a student incurs a violation, he or she will be penalized according to the code for each activity, if any or all activity seasons are taking place simultaneously. All category A, B, and E activities will have defined beginning and ending dates. So please keep that in mind. Again, for penalties number 1 through 9 on pages 17 and 18 of the Co-Curricular Handbook, those penalties without a self-referral. So for violations including use, possession, buying or selling of controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, and or performance-enhancing substances, drug paraphernalia, including sale, possession, or use. 2. Use, possession, or purchase of tobacco in any form. Use of tobacco means to chew or possess any substance containing tobacco, including smokeless tobacco, in the mouth to derive the effects of tobacco, as well as tobacco, snuff, or any other matter or substances that contain tobacco, in addition to papers used to roll cigarettes and/or the smoking of electronic vapor or other substitute forms of cigarettes, clove cigarettes, and any other lighted smoking devices for burning tobacco or any other substance. 3. Use, possession, or purchase of alcoholic beverages. 4. Knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. 5. Acts of vandalism. 6. Hosting a party. 7. Supplying, bringing alcohol or drugs. 8. A school AODA violation. And 9. Use of tobacco, nicotine, and related products by students. Any of those areas, a first violation for Category A would be, and Category A activity would be suspension for 1/4 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/4 of the regular season. The student must also complete a student assistance program or a similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Note, for first-time offenders in the area of knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia, suspension for 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8 of the regular season. The student must also complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Category B activities, again for first violations, suspension for 1 competition or performance. The student must also complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Second violations for Category A and B activities, suspension for an entire season or the equivalent of an entire season. Third violations for Category A and B activities, suspension will be for 1 full school year or the equivalent of 1 full school year. For fourth violations of Category A and B activities, the student loses the privilege to participate in all co-curricular activities during the remainder of his or her academic career in the district. Again, please be aware of the penalties for violations 1 through 9 and 17 and 18 for Category A and B activities without a self-referral. With a self-referral, which is honesty being rewarded, there are different consequences for violations 1 through 9, depending upon if there is a first or second or violation. A self-referral is defined as if a student presents himself or herself to the activities coordinator at his or her school as a person who has violated the code of conduct in the areas numbered 1 through 5, which we will cover. The student will have his or her penalty reduced. For this to occur, the student must self-admit no later than the first school day after the violation has occurred and the information cannot already have been shared with school administration from another source. Administration may grant an extension to the 1 school day provision due to extenuating circumstances. Students and their parents are strongly encouraged to self-report violations of the Code of Conduct during the summer months to the activities coordinator as soon as possible. Again, self-referral is only applicable through 1 through 5. 1. Use, possession, buying, or selling of controlled substances, street drugs, illegal drugs, and/or performance-enhancing substances, drug paraphernalia, including sale, possession, or use. 2. Use, possession, or purchase of tobacco in any form. Use of tobacco means to chew or possess any substance containing tobacco, including smokeless tobacco, in the mouth to derive the effects of tobacco, as well as all uses of tobacco, including cigars, cigarettes, pipe tobacco, chewing tobacco, snuff, any other matter or substances that contain tobacco, in addition to papers used to roll cigarettes and/or the smoking of electronic, vapor, or other substitute forms of cigarettes, clove cigarettes, and any other lighted smoking devices for burning tobacco or any other substance. 3. Use, possession, or purchase of alcoholic beverages. 4. Knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and/or drug paraphernalia. And 5. Acts of vandalism. In those particular areas, a violation, if it takes place, If it has occurred, a self-referral can be utilized. Other areas covered that are considered violations: hosting a party, any person who has a gathering at his or her home, property or personal property, car, boat, camper, campsite, etc., where alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia are permitted by such person to be used and or brought into the home, property, or personal property, may be given a penalty at a higher level. Administrative discretion will determine the length of the penalty. 7. Supplying, bringing alcohol, drugs. Any person who brings, supplies alcohol, tobacco, drugs, or drug paraphernalia to another person or persons may be given a penalty at a higher level. Administrative discretion will determine the length of the penalty. In the event another individual engages in this behavior on behalf of the athlete or student, there will be a presumption that the other individual acted as an agent of the student, and the student will receive the same punishment as if the student had been the supplier. 8. School AODA violation. 9. Use of tobacco, nicotine, and related products by students. First, violations. Again, with a self-referral, and again, those are only 1 through 5 on page 19 and 20. For Category A activities, suspension for 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8 of the regular season. The student may continue to practice, and the student must also complete a student assistance program or a similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. Note, for first-time offenders in the area of knowingly in the presence of alcohol, illegal drugs, and or drug paraphernalia, suspension for 1/8 of the regular season or the equivalent of 1/8. Should the student also volunteer to complete a student assistance program or similar approved educational program, the penalty will be reduced to 1 competition or performance date. For Category B activities with the self-referral, first violation, a 10-hour community service plan. The plan must be submitted to the activities coordinator within 5 school days of the violation. The community service hours must be completed prior to the activity eligibility being reinstated. The student must also complete a student assistant program or similar approved educational program in order to be reinstated. A second violation for Category A and B activities with the self-referral, suspension for 50% of the season or the equivalent of 50% of the season with the following additional requirements. 1. A 20-hour community service plan. 2. Meeting with the high school social worker and or the district's ATODA coordinator and following through with any recommended course of action. Note that the program must successfully be completed prior to co-curricular eligibility being reinstated, or prior arrangements must have been made with the activities coordinator. Also, regarding the 20-hour community service plan, the plan must be submitted to the activities coordinator within 5 school days of the violation, and the community service hours must be completed prior to activity eligibility being reinstated. Third, violations for Category A and B, even with a self-referral, suspension for 1 full school year or the equivalent of 1 full school year. And fourth, violations for Category A and B activities, the student loses the privilege to participate in all co-curricular activities during the remainder of his or her academic career in the district. Again, each of us has the ability to think and make good choices. We want you as a student to make good choices. Please, if you find yourself in a spot where you believe something bad is going to happen that may impact your eligibility, leave, call a friend, call a family member, find a way to get out of that situation. And don't be afraid to come forward and share with school administration what happened. Tell us your side of the story. If you in fact did try to leave a situation where something bad was about to happen in your opinion, we would rather hear it from you than have to call you down and ask you why you were there. If you did nothing wrong, you had nothing to hide, and should feel very good about talking to us about what happened. Again, you get 4 years. Please make the most of them. Make good choices, and if you do make a mistake, we are all human and we all do make mistakes. Please utilize the self-referral option. Honesty is rewarded. Note 2, on page 15, the complaint process. Violations should be referred to the appropriate high school activities coordinator. Complaints, referrals concerning a code shall be made in writing and signed by the complainant and/or by a law enforcement report and/or by a published written account and/or by other factual, credible means to the activities coordinator. School administration will consider statements made by students to law enforcement officials which are verbally shared with school administration and/or are found in a written law enforcement report as factual and truthful statements. If a student, upon questioning by a school official, recants on such statements made to a law enforcement official, the district's position will be that the statements made to the law enforcement official were truthful, and as such, it will be up to the student to convince school administration otherwise. Any student in this situation who makes a statement to a law enforcement official which is determined to violate the district's code of conduct will be ineligible for competition until otherwise determined eligible by school administration. So please keep that in mind as well. On pages 21 and 22, basically on page 22 of the handbook, you'll note items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. These offenses are considered cumulative within themselves only and apply to all activity categories referenced in the handbook, meaning a first violation here coupled with a first violation items or an area numbered 1 through 9 previously mentioned would not automatically be considered a second violation if in fact there was a first violation in one of the areas in 1 through 9 and then a first violation in areas 10 through 14. Please note, criminal offense or violation of a city-county ordinance having a statutory counterpart. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. If a student utilizes the self-referral option previously outlined in this handbook, his or her suspension may be reduced depending on the severity of the offense. 11. Acts of harassment including hazing. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the penalty, which may involve suspensions, will be determined based on the severity of the offense. Note, hazing is against the law. It is not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. If you feel you have been the target of harassment or hazing, please inform a school administrator or your coach or advisor. Also, I'm going to challenge each and every one of you to be a leader in your activity, and if you see anything that you think even remotely could turn into hazing or harassment, put a stop to it, stand up and say, it's not going to happen here, and inform your advisor or coach. Number 14, illegal or inappropriate use of the internet and/or electronic devices. Any posting or communication via social networking websites which disrupts either the educational or athletic activity environment is unacceptable. This includes but is not limited to the consumption of alcohol or the use of illicit drugs or facsimiles, inappropriate sexually oriented material, or activities involving bullying, hazing, or harassment. Again, if you utilize social media in any way, shape, or form, or send text messages or emails, if they end up on the desk of an administrator, you can be held accountable for the content. Again, please make good choices. On pages 22 and 23 are behavioral offenses, which are considered violations of the code of conduct, but are more of a minor nature. A couple I want to mention in particular. Number 4, truancy. A student participating in activities will not be permitted to participate in the next scheduled contest or performance whenever the student has had an unexcused absence from school unless administration grants permission to participate. Again, if you skip class, you will be held accountable. You need to be a student first and foremost, which means you need to be in class. If you get an unexcused absence notification, please get it cleared up within 24 hours. Number 6, cheating. First offense. During one's high school career, the teacher involved will handle the situation in the classroom and will make contact with the activities coordinator. A second offense during one's high school career and any additional offenses. The student will be referred to the activities coordinator for a behavioral offense or code of conduct violation. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. Note, for any first offense found to be especially serious, administration reserves the right to invoke a second offense consequence. Again, please be clear with your teacher regarding what group work expectations exist for assignments when working as a group, and please do your own work. If you're not sure, ask for help, but don't copy or cheat off another student. Number 5, conduct or behavior which reflects unfavorably on a student. The significance of the violation will be evaluated and the suspension will be determined based on the severity of the offense. A perfect example of this area is if you receive a in or out of school suspension. If that happens, there is a good chance you may receive a behavioral offense. Again, if you're involved in any conduct or behavior which may be a disruption to the learning environment, which may be illegal, and which is definitely inappropriate, is more than likely a violation of this area of the Code of Conduct. Number 8, a student in good standing, specifically failing to be a student in good standing. A student in good standing is defined as you adhere to your high school code of student conduct, you adhere to your high school attendance and tardy policies, meaning be in class and get to class on time, and you have no unserved detentions. Checkpoints for the 16-17 school year include October 3rd, the start of each winter sports season, January 9th, the start of each spring sports season, and April 17th. Only administrative approval will allow a student to compete in co-curricular events if a student is not in good standing at each checkpoint. Again, if you have detentions, serve them. On page 25 is the appeal process. If you are found by school administration to have violated the district's code of conduct, you do have the right to file an appeal if you feel an incorrect suspension has been handed down. Note, appeals may be filed only in reference to whether there was a code violation or not. An appeal may not be filed to change a consequence. So again, note the appeals process on page 25, and it continues on to 26. Regarding awards on page 26, some activities may hand out school awards, others will not. If awards are handed out for your activity, please be aware of the different types that there are and the different guidelines that exist regarding violations that may have an impact on your award if you do earn one. On page 28 is the district's communication policy. Please be familiar with 1 through 10. Again, the Activities Department encourages students, parents, and coaches and advisors to open the lines of communication using the following understandings. I want to emphasize a few in particular. 1, coaches and advisors are required to operate under an open door policy where they will candidly respond to questions or concerns from either the student or the parent. 2, if the student or parent has a question or concern about the program, it should be brought directly to the coach advisor. 3, contact should be during normal school hours. 4, coaches or advisors should schedule the meeting with the student and or parents in a private setting. And 5, communication by all parties will be carried out in a rational, calm, mature discussion with respect shown to all. Again, negative approaches to problem solving do nothing but make the environment for all more destructive. Students, parents, coaches, and advisors, and school administrators must work together in an atmosphere of mutual trust fostered by open communication. Again, if you have questions about anything related to your activity or program, you need to speak with your coach or advisor. They will make the time to speak with you. On pages 29 and 30 are some additional resources. Please note, foxvalleyassociation.org is a great website that lists all of the different activities going on at Oshkosh West High School each and every day. In the back of the handbook is a NFHS informational appendix regarding hazing. I strongly encourage you to review it and read it, as it contains some great information regarding hazing. And again, hazing is defined by the National Federation as any humiliating or dangerous activity expected of a student to belong to a group regardless of their willingness to participate. Again, hazing is illegal, inappropriate, and not tolerated at Oshkosh West High School. Again, if you feel you've been the target of hazing, please see a school administrator or your coach or advisor immediately. And again, students, stand up for what's right. If you see anything at all that would be considered possibly hazing, bullying, and harassment, step in, say it's not right, inform your coach or advisor and or a school administrator. Finally, follow me on Twitter at OWHS Activities. On that Twitter feed, I'm always sharing good news about all our different activities taking place at Oshkosh West High School. That will conclude the online activity code meeting presentation for the 2016-17 school year. Again, if you have questions about anything covered in this presentation or found within the district's co-curricular handbook, please either stop in and see me, Mr. Jodarski, in the high school main office, or again, you can email me at brad.jodarski@oshkosh.k12.wi.us. Make it a great year. Thanks for getting involved, and go Wildcats.